Hmm. I'm not really sure what happened, but it looks like I had my screen sharing and then it just disappeared. Okay, I'm just hoping that it is now sharing. So this is exactly what we are going to be going through, the honorable member, where we are going to be reading information from a graph. Very, very much important that you understand how you read an information from the graph. I will therefore explain all of that. So let's see, when you are given a graph, you just need to make some notes on it in order to help you understand it. Okay, so when you start interpreting the graph, first thing first, look at the given heading. So you will find that each graph has a name. So the name of this graph, it is the graph of cost of flour against weight. That is the name of the graph. So what you therefore need to ask yourself is that which quantity represents the x-axis, or which one is on the x-axis and which one is on the y-axis. Then you will see this to say on the y-axis we are having the cost in rands, and then here we are having the weight in kilograms. Very much important that we know the unit of the cost, because it can be in dollars, Zim dollars, it can be in cents, it can be whatever the unit, the honorable member, naira, pounds, Japanese yen, euros, what else? Yeah, it could be any currency, the honorable member. But in this case, we are talking about the rands. Again, when it comes to the weight, very, very much important that you notice the weight is in kilograms. It could be in grams, whatever the unit, the honorable member. Okay, then it's fine. What's next? I think from there, you need to realize that, okay, maybe looking at the x-axis, you can see that we are having some units there, starting from 0, and then we are having a 5 there, in between there is something, and then we are having a 10, and then we skip a line, 15, we skip 20, we skip 25. So as someone who's curious, you can therefore realize that, okay, between 0 and 5, it is what? It should be 2,5. And then another 2,5, it takes you to 5, 7,5 in between, and then another 2,5, it takes you to 10. And then from 10, you add 2,5, it gives you, what is it, 12,5. Then you add another 2,5, it takes you to 15. 2,5 takes you to 7. I hope you get that point, the honorable member. Very, very much important. Okay, so now we can therefore make a conclusion to say, okay, it looks like 2 blocks across shows 5 kgs. In other words, 1 block, it represents 2,5 kg. Yes, I think that's what I was explaining there to say, moving from that 0 point going to that. So that means that block, it represents a 2,5, and then another 2,5, it takes you to 5 kg, another 2,575, all of that. So that's what it means to say the length of that block, it actually equates to 2,5 kg. So let's now try to interpret the vertical line and say, okay, since this one, it refers to the cost in rands, would it not make sense for me to say from the 0 to that one in the middle, it means it's 50 rands, because from there, another block takes you to 100 rands, 150 rands, and then 200 rands, 250, 300 rands, 350, 400, 450, 500, 550, and so on and so forth and stuff like that. In other ways, the honorable member, it means one block, it represents or shows 50 rands. And then if it is 2 blocks, it means it is 100 rands. So you should not be confused when you try to interpret the graph, the honorable member. Just follow that order. Okay, so now if we have to plot that graph, you can see that we are starting from 0. It just goes as a straight line and then it ends somewhere there, even though it does not align with that one. Maybe let me leave it as that. So what it means, the honorable member, is that you can see that in terms of the money, where that graph ends, it ends at where the money is 500 rands. So that means 500 rands will actually get you 5 kg. So that means for 500 rands, you will get 25 kg of flour. Now, I hope that part makes sense. It doesn't end there. It doesn't end there. If you want to know the cost per kg, then what you do is just to say, okay, that 500, when you divide it by that 25 kg, you can see that after punching that, the answer that you will get, it will be in rands per kg. So if you punch that on a calculator, it will give you a value. And the value that you get 20 rands. So it therefore means it is actually 20 rands that gives you a kilogram. So that would be the rate the honorable member to say gram of flour. So that's if you had to interpret that a given graph. So the two quantities are cost and weight of flour. Okay, I think that makes sense. So the price increases as the customers buy more flour. Yes, based on that graph, we can see that it actually starts from 0, and then from there it goes in an upward direction, in that direction. Okay, then it's fine. The second bullet, we can talk about the graph to say it actually starts at 0 rand for 0 kg. And then from there, it shows 500 for 25 kilograms. So in other words, we are just describing to say it started from where the price is 0 and the weight is 0. Then it keeps on increasing, whereby 100 rand will therefore get you 5 kilograms. So a question would be 300 rand will give you how much of flour? And then it will just say, okay, 300 rands will give me 15 kilograms of flour, something of that nature. Just like we are saying 500 rands will get you 25 kilograms of flour. Hope that part makes sense. Okay, then it's fine. So here, weight is the independent variable, then cost is the dependent variable. So most of these, it is the one being the independent variable, then the y-axis becomes the one being the dependent variable. So that means the cost depends on the weight. The cost, it is the one that depends on the weight. The weight does not depend on the cost. Hope that part makes sense. I think it will make more sense as we continue with our lesson for today. So maybe let's have a look at this example. It's actually a worked example. So that means it has the questions and the answers. So let's see. Touching the axis. Okay, touching the axis. So what does it mean when a graph touches the horizontal axis or the vertical axis? I think this is a good question to ask yourself to say, what actually does it mean? Okay, so let's see. If the graph touches the vertical axis, what it means is that the quantity on the horizontal axis has reached 0. Okay, so if a graph touches the horizontal axis, it means that the quantity on the vertical axis has reached 0. Let me just try to diagrammatically or diagrammatically draw that. Yes, I just wanted the clip to form part of the lesson diagram diagrammatically. Yes. Okay. So if the graph touches the vertical axis, so that means, remember, we draw graphs on a Cartesian plane having the y-axis and the x-axis. So maybe something of, if the graph touches the vertical axis, it means the quantity on the thing has reached that. Maybe let me do something of that nature. Yes. So what it means is that this is a point where that graph, you see that point there, this is the point where that graph touches the y-axis. So what it means is that since we always write the coordinates as x and y, it's never a y and x, always is x and so. So that means x is 0, because that is the point where x is 0 and then it continues to increase 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 from there. But at that point, it is 0. Y, it is whatever value, because this is the 0, and then you're having 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 5. Then it could be something like 5. So that's what it means there. And then in a situation where they say if the graph touches the horizontal axis, it means that, so this is that point now. This is that point. Whereby at that point, that's where the x value could be something. It could be 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 4,7. Yes, something like that. Maybe 4,7. And then the y is 0 at that point. So that would be the coordinates of that point. Unlike if, for example, it is this point, whereby we have 1, 2, then it is clear that, okay, x is 2 at that point, and then y, maybe it will be something like 1, 2, 2,5 there. Yes, something like 2,5 there. So what we are just doing now is like interpreting the points on the graph. But most importantly, we were focusing on the points or the touching axis, so the graph where it touches those axes. Okay, then it's fine. I think now what we can do, it is dive into this worked example and see what's happening there, or what is going on over there. Okay, so now let's, okay, so Tumelo empties his 500 milliliter. Yes, I hope you still remember that we do not call that a milliliter, but call it a milliliter. So Tumelo empties his 500 milliliter water bottle at a constant rate. Yes, 500 milliliter, 500 milliliter bottle, water bottle, 500 milliliter water bottle at a constant rate. Okay, so that would be that. A. Dumelo empties his 500 milliliter water bottle at a constant rate. Okay, so now here they are saying describe what you see in the graph. Okay. Okay, then it's fine. So one thing for sure, the honorable member, we do have a graph over there which represents time in minutes and volume of water in milliliters that we can see. And when you look at the graph, so remember the honorable member, this is the axis, the vertical axis which represents that. And this is the x-axis or the horizontal axis that represents the time, which is in minutes. And of course, those values. So that means this is 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and so on and so forth and stuff like that. Then this would be 50 milliliters, 100 milliliters, 150, 200, 250, 300, 350, 400, 450, 500 milliliters. And then the graph. So when we talk about the graph, we are talking about this. You see that which starts from that 500, then it ends there at 5. That is the graph. So now the question says describe what you see in the graph. So that is what you need to comment on with reference to or referencing that and that, because the graph, it's about those two things. Okay, then it's fine. So it says as the time elapses, the volume of water decreases from 500 milliliters until the bottle is empty at the end of 5 minutes. You see, why are we saying it's empty? Because at that point, the time is 5 minutes, and in terms of the volume, it is 0 milliliter. Remember, based on what we discussed about the touching of the axis. You see, that's how you interpret it, the honorable member. You say, as time goes on, it's like Dumelo is drinking there, and as time goes on, it takes, no, you can't drink 5 milliliters over 5 minutes constantly without stopping and all of that. Yes, okay. But otherwise, the honorable member empties the water over a period of time, and that time is 5 minutes. And most importantly, so when the time is 0, the volume is 500 milliliters. But when the time is 5 minutes, volume is 0. So from the beginning, or otherwise the beginning, at the start, before we start counting, the volume of that bottle or the water, it's 500 milliliters. And then after 5 minutes, we are now having that bottle of water being 0 or emptied, and that happens in 5 minutes time. And that should be the end of it, the honorable member. I think for that reason, we'll leave it here and say until we meet again. Hope you did understand all that I've explained there.